call from the SDRS. The galaxy was burning. Stars that once shined with trade and peace were now dark and silent. Worlds were falling one by one. Powerful alien empires were losing a war they never expected to fight. At the center of it all stood the Galactic Council, a massive station floating between dying stars. Inside its halls, fear ruled every voice. Leaders of ancient races gathered in silence, watching screens filled with defeat. Their enemy was endless, a force that did not stop, did not speak, and did not show mercy. Fleets made of metal and fire crushed everything in their path. No defense worked for long. The Council had already asked for help from the strongest species in the galaxy. They had sent fleets, weapons, and champions. All had failed. Hope was fading fast. That was when one small name appeared on the Council screen. A young species, new to space compared to the others. Humans. Many leaders laughed at first. Humans were known as fragile, emotional, and divided. They fought among themselves often. They had no great empire, no ancient history in space. But the Council had no more options. Every powerful race had fallen back or been destroyed. Desperation pushed them to the unthinkable. They would ask humans for help. A signal was prepared. Not a command, not a threat, but a request, a plea. The message crossed the stars, passing broken ships and silent worlds. It reached a small blue planet on the edge of known space, Earth. On Earth, humans were unaware of how close the galaxy was to ending. Cities were alive with light. People argued, worked, dreamed, and struggled. Just another normal day. Then the signal arrived. Every satellite, every deep space receiver picked it up. Human scientists stared in shock. This was not noise or a mistake. Within minutes, world leaders were called into emergency meetings. Screens showed alien faces filled with fear and exhaustion, a feeling humans knew very well. The alien speaker began slowly, its voice weak but honest. It spoke of the war, of the worlds lost, of the enemy that could not be stopped. Then came the words that changed everything. You are our last hope. Silence filled the room on Earth. Humans had been called many things in their history. Dangerous, violent, unpredictable, but never this. Some leaders were confused. Some were afraid. Others were angry. Why ask humans now? The aliens explained more. They said humans survived things that destroyed other races. Plagues, wars, disasters. Humans always adapted. They admitted their mistake. They had watched humans from afar. They saw conflict and assumed weakness. They were wrong. The message ended with a final request. Not for weapons, not for ships, but for leadership back on Earth. The room stayed quiet. Humans understood one thing very clearly. If they said no, the galaxy would fall. A single human voice finally spoke, calm and steady. We will answer, far beyond Earth. Unseen by alien eyes, something began to move. Old fleets hidden in deep space powered on. Ships built not for glory, but for survival. The galaxy had asked the wrong species for help. Or maybe, the right one. Because when humans were pushed into a corner, they did not beg, they prepared to fight. The species they UN'd as SDMA to the Galactic Council waited in fear. After sending the message to Earth, no reply came for many hours. Some believed humans had ignored them. Others feared humans were already destroyed by the enemy. To pass the time, the Council ordered a deep analysis of humanity. They wanted to understand the species they had begged for help. If this was truly the end, they wanted to know who would witness it. Alien historians opened human records. What they saw confused them. Humans had no united empire, no single ruler, no long age of peace. Instead, they saw wars, endless wars. Humans fought each other more than any known species. Cities burned, nations fell, and millions died. Some council members mocked this. How can such a broken species help us? How can they lead when they cannot control themselves? But the analysts kept going. They noticed something strange. Humans never stopped. After every war, they rebuilt. After every loss, they learned. When disease came, humans created cures. When their planet fought back with storms and fire, humans adapted. They did not leave. They endured. Alien scientists compared data. Other species collapsed after one great disaster. Humans survived thousands, each one shaping them into something harder. The council began to grow uneasy. They noticed a pattern. Humans were strongest when pushed. When cornered, they did not surrender. Then came the military records. Humans had fought wars with simple weapons, then with machines, then with weapons powerful enough to scar their own world. They had rules of war, then broke them when survival demanded it. Not because they loved violence, but because they refused extinction. An alien general paused the report. This species does not fear loss. They accept it, and move forward. As the council watched, new data appeared. Human space activity, exploration missions, mining fleets, defense platforms. Nothing that looked impressive at first glance. But something was missing. There were gaps in the data. Large empty zones around human space. No signals, no traffic. Alien scouts were sent to investigate. What they found sent shock through the council. Hidden far from Earth were massive structures, shipyards buried inside asteroids, fleets drifting in silence, old, scarred, but fully armed. These ships were not marked with pride or beauty. They were built for function, for repair, for survival. Each ship carried symbols, names of battles, names of lost worlds, names of the dead. Humans had not built these fleets to conquer the galaxy. They had built them expecting someone to come for them. The council realized the truth too late. Humans did not trust peace. They trusted preparation. A quiet fear spread through the chamber. If humans answered the call, they would not come as helpers. They would come as warriors. At that moment, a new signal arrived at the council station. It was short, clear, human. We have received your message. We are preparing a response. For the first time since the war began, hope returned, but it was mixed with fear, because the galaxy was about to learn something important. Humans were not weak, they were restrained, and now, that restraint was ending. The fleet born from DFA and C across human space, something ancient awakened. Signals spread through dark systems, where no light had shined for years. Silent shipyards powered on. Old machines answered their final call. These fleets were not new. They were built across generations. Each ship carried scars from tests, accidents, and forgotten battles. They were never shown to the galaxy. Human commanders gathered, not in grand halls, but in simple rooms filled with screens and data. There were no speeches about glory. They spoke about survival. They spoke about duty. They spoke about a galaxy that was about to fall. Orders were clear. Every fleet would move. Every reserve ship would be activated. Nothing would be held back. The ships began to move through space, slow at first, then faster. Their engines burned with quiet strength. Alien observers watched from afar. What they saw did not match their expectations. There were no golden hulls, no massive symbols of power. Human ships were dark, heavy, built with thick armor and layered systems, designed to keep fighting even when damaged. Each ship carried a name, not of kings or gods, but of battles humans barely survived, of cities that no longer existed. Alien analysts read the names and felt unease. These ships were not meant to inspire fear. They were meant to remember loss. As the fleets gathered, the full size became clear. Thousands of ships, then tens of thousands, spread across multiple systems. The Galactic Council struggled to understand. How did we miss this? How did such a young species build this? The answer was simple. Humans did not build fleets for pride. They built them expecting disaster. Human history had taught them one lesson again and again. Peace was temporary. Threats always returned. Preparation was survival. When the human fleets entered Allied space, alien commanders fell silent. They expected questions. They expected fear. Instead, humans asked only one thing. Where is the enemy? Human tacticians studied the war data. They saw mistakes others ignored. They saw patterns in the enemy attacks. They saw opportunity inside chaos. The enemy fleet appeared soon after, a massive armada of cold metal and endless numbers. It moved without emotion, without hesitation. Alien fleets prepared defensive lines. They planned to retreat if overwhelmed. That was how they had survived so long. Humans changed the plan. They moved forward instead, straight toward the enemy. Alien leaders protested. "This will destroy you. You will lose everything." A human commander replied calmly, "We already know how loss feels." The first shots were fired. Space lit up with fire and energy. Human ships took damage immediately, but they did not slow. When one ship fell, another took its place. When systems failed, backups activated. Human designs assumed failure and planned beyond it. The enemy hesitated for the first time. They had never faced a force that kept advancing under fire. As the battle raged, something changed. Alien fleets stopped retreating. They followed the human lead. They pushed forward. For the first time in the war, the enemy was forced back. Deep inside the human command ship, a quiet message was sent across all fleets. Hold the line, this is only the beginning. The galaxy watched in shock, because the fleet born from human defiance had arrived, and it had come not to save itself, but to fight for everyone. When humans took command, the battle spread across the system. Fire and wreckage filled the space between stars. Alien fleets fought harder than ever before, but confusion still slowed them down. Different species used different tactics, different commands, different retreat signals. They had never truly fought as one force. Humans noticed this quickly. Human commanders shared data in real time. They saw allied ships hesitating, waiting for orders that came too late. A human admiral made a decision, not loud, not dramatic, but final. He sent a message to the Galactic Council. We will take command of the combined fleet. If you want to survive, trust us. The Council hesitated. Giving control to a young species felt dangerous, but the enemy did not wait. Another wave was already incoming. With no better choice left, the Council agreed. Human command codes were accepted, and the battlefield changed instantly. Human orders were simple, clear, direct, no long explanations. Hold this line. Advance here. Protect the damaged ships. Alien captains were surprised. Humans did not order them to sacrifice themselves. Humans moved strong ships forward, and pulled weak ships back. For the first time, Allied fleets felt protected. Human ships formed shields around slower vessels. Taking hits meant for others, armor breaking, systems failing. But humans did not retreat. They adjusted, they adapted, they kept moving. The enemy tried new tactics, faster attacks, stronger weapons, but humans responded just as fast. When enemy ships surrounded one sector, humans created controlled chaos. They opened gaps, lured the enemy in, then closed the trap. Alien commanders watched in disbelief. Humans were not reacting to the enemy, they were guiding them. A damaged alien cruiser lost power, drifting toward destruction before the enemy could strike. Human ships moved in. They took hits, they burned, but they held position, buying time for the cruiser to escape. Why risk so much for us? An alien captain asked. A human voice replied calmly. No one gets left behind. Those words spread through the Allied fleets. Fear began to fade. Trust began to grow. The enemy flagship appeared at the edge of the system, larger than anything seen before, its weapons charged. Its presence alone crushed morale. Some alien ships began to pull back, old instincts returning. Human command reacted instantly. All fleets, stay together, do not break formation. Human ships moved to the front, forming a wall of steel and fire. They focused every weapon, every remaining resource. The enemy flagship fired, entire sections of space vanished. Human ships were lost, names erased in seconds. Still, the line held. Inside human command, no one celebrated. Loss was expected. Sacrifice was understood. A final message was sent across the fleet. We hold here. If we fall, we fall together. Alien crews felt something new. Not orders, not fear, but courage. They stayed, they fought, they followed the human lead. As the enemy flagship slowed under heavy fire, cracks forming in its armor, the galaxy realized the truth it could never forget. Humans did not just fight wars. They carried others through them, and under human command, the galaxy was no longer running. Written in Legion Dest, enemy flagship burned in silence, its massive form breaking apart piece by piece. What remained of the enemy fleet scattered. Some fled into deep space, others powered down. The battle was over, not because the enemy was destroyed, but because it was broken. Across the system, damaged ships drifted, human and alien vessels side by side, scars of the fight visible on every hull. Survivors sent quiet signals. Rescue operations began immediately. Human ships moved first, not to claim victory, but to save the wounded. Alien crews watched in disbelief. Humans rescued allies before repairing their own ships. They shared power, air, and supplies without hesitation. The Galactic Council reconvened days later, this time without fear, only respect. Screens showed human commanders standing calmly. An ancient alien leader spoke. Our records were wrong. We thought strength meant age and size. We were mistaken. The Council announced new galactic laws. Humanity would hold permanent command roles, not as rulers, but as guardians. Stories spread across the stars, of human ships that held the line, of crews that stayed behind so others could escape, of names etched into hulls that now had meaning. Human losses were honored, not only by humans, but by every species that survived. Memorials were built on worlds humans had never seen. Children of many races learned the same story. When the galaxy called for help, humans answered, not with words, but with action. Human commanders returned home quietly. No parades, no celebrations, just a job completed. Earth did not claim victory. Humanity did not demand tribute. They simply stood ready, in case the galaxy needed them again. Centuries later, historians would write, the war did not end because of technology, or numbers, or ancient power. It ended because one species refused to run, refused to abandon others, refused to surrender. In every corner of known space, one sentence was added to the records, a line written in respect and fear. When aliens asked for help, humanity commanded a fleet, and the galaxy survived. The echo that never effaced the war was over, but its echo never left the galaxy. Long after the last shots were fired, silence carried memory. Not fear, not chaos, but respect. Trade routes reopened slowly. Damaged worlds began to heal. Alien cities rebuilt their skies, and everywhere, one truth remained. Human fleets still patrolled the borders, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as watchers. They stayed in the dark edges of space, where threats were born, where danger always returned, quiet and ready. Other species tried to copy human ships. They copied armor, they copied weapons, they copied formations, but they could not copy the reason. Humans did not fight for pride. They did not fight for control. They fought so others could live. New alliances were formed, this time built on trust. Human advisors trained alien fleets, teaching simple rules. Never abandon your allies. Never waste sacrifice. Never run when others stand. Young alien officers listened carefully. They studied human history, not the victories, but the failures. They learned how humans lost worlds, lost cities, lost millions, and still moved forward. On Earth, life continued. People returned to normal days. Few truly understood what had been prevented. Fewer still spoke of it. Human commanders refused titles. They rejected statues. They asked only for one thing: preparation. Hidden shipyards remained active. Fleets stayed ready, not because another war was certain, but because peace was never permanent. Far away, in the deepest unknown space, something watched, something listened. Learning from the defeat, ancient minds recorded one name, not as prey, not as threat, but as warning: humanity. Galactic historians would later agree, that moment changed everything. The galaxy stopped believing in age and size, and started believing in resolve. Every new species that reached the stars was told the same story, not as a myth, but as a lesson. When the galaxy burned, when hope was gone, when the strongest failed, one species answered the call, not because they were asked, but because they understood what it meant to lose everything. And so the echo remained, in fleets, in laws, in memory. If darkness ever returned, if the stars cried out again, humanity would hear it, and once more, they would not ask who deserved saving. They would simply stand,